Right. Welcome, everybody. Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Cawley from the Delan Institute for Growth and Wellness, and you are here for our live streaming event, which is connected to our book, my book, Power Up 7 Transformational Steps to Own Your Power and Get More Joy in Life. So, the second step in this whole process for this month is really focused on observing. So, observing your life, observing with a very objective eye, like a scientist would. So, when I went to college and was studying to be a physician, we were trained to be scientists, to look at all the facts, to look at everything from the most objective place that you could, and to collect all the data and to come up with ideas, or what we call hypothesis, of what was going on. So, for example, with a patient, I would spend time with the patient getting their history and learning about their symptoms and when they started and how long they've been. And then I would do a physical exam, and then I may follow that up with labs or x-rays or others tests, and take all that information and look at it objectively to come up with what we would call a differential diagnosis, or basically just reasons for why the patient is feeling that particular way and what are some of the potential reasons for it, and then how do you go about and treat it. So in this way, it was very objective, and try to be as non-judgmental as possible as we were looking at an issue or problem. So I want you to be able to do the same thing with your life. That's right. In the first session and in the first chapter of the book, where we're really digging into the work, we're looking at taking a pause, stepping back, and identifying what's most essential or important to us, right? And from that, identifying where we want to go in the future. And that allows us to then identify what you need to do next. What kind of intentional things do you need to do in order to get to where you want to go for that future state? So when I talk about observing your current state, the reason for that is you are in your current place for a reason. And there were decisions that you made along the way that happened maybe to you, for you, by you, whatever, right? There's a lot of things that can happen to us as we move through our lives. And sometimes you end up in a place that's not quite what you had expected. And there's lots of reasons for that. But what's important first is to step back and really observe where you are in your current life and think about how you got there. The way that I like to do that is to, as I mentioned, be like a scientist, but also think about all of the things it took to get to your current place. I'm going to share my screen because I love pictures, and I feel like this, I can figure it out here. Oh, it's not letting me do that. Okay, so we're going to share. Woo, that's kind of funny. But here, we'll look at this instead. So hopefully you can see what I'm showing you right now, which is a picture that says observe and has a scientist, right? So here the scientist is looking, at a test tube and trying to figure out what is going on, and maybe she's doing an experiment. But this is the picture that I really wanted you guys to see. So I love this picture. Besides looking just beautiful and very soothing and calming, it really, I think, demonstrates that our life is like a journey. It's a path that we follow, and there's steps that we take all along the way that have gotten us to where we are in our current place. And there's steps that we're going to need to take until we get to where we want to go. So when thinking about how did you get here, and thinking about it as a scientist would, how would you objectively do that? What I like to suggest is actually creating a line on a piece of paper and thinking about it as a lifeline, if you will. And starting back in your teen years, so maybe 16, 15, somewhere in there, and documenting all of the different milestones that happened during your life. And it could be all kinds of different things, right? It could be when you went to college, when you graduated high school, your first job, your first love, your first apartment. It could be an adventure that you had or a trip that you went on. It could be getting married. It could be having a baby. All these different things happen over time and at different points along the way. And based on that, things or opportunities come up, and you may go right versus left or straight versus to the side. And so I find that actually sketching out your life milestones can be really, really helpful in giving you sort of a sense of where you are now and how you got there. So I'll give you an example of mine. So at 15, well, actually at 3, or probably even sooner than that, when I was very little, I knew I wanted to be a physician. So for me, I had planned to go to college. I had planned to go to medical school. And I grew up in Albany, New York, in the Albany area. So there was a college there, Union College, that I decided I wanted to go to Union College. I was going to go in the 6 or 7 year program and fast track my way to becoming a physician and go to Albany Medical School. And I was going to stay in the region, and that was going to be what I was going to do. And I was going to get married and have 3 kids. So that was my plan. And then I applied to colleges, and I got into all the colleges I applied to. And I got into Union College, and my parents told me that I would have to live at home. So I decided that was not the best thing for me, and I decided to instead go to Buffalo, New York, and go to a school out there where I got a scholarship. So that was a deviation from where I thought I was going to go. I'm in college, and I learned about osteopathic medicine, and I had never heard of osteopathic medicine before my second year of college. So there I am in our pre-med committee, and I'm learning about osteopathic medicine, and I'm thinking to myself, gee, if this is the kind of family physician I would want to go to, someone who's holistic, who's thinking about mind, body, spirit, then that's the way I should train too, right? So I started looking into osteopathic medical colleges and applied only to osteopathic programs and ended up in Maine. So another deviation from where I thought I was going. I was planning on going to Albany Med and staying in the area. Instead, I went to Maine. Now, I did want to get married and have 3 kids. 3rd day of school, I met my husband. We've been together for 40 years as of actually today. Today is our 40th anniversary for meeting. So I met him on the 3rd day of school. We were married 2 years later, and I ended up having 2 kids instead of 3, but we did have dogs. So that probably makes up for the 3rd child in a way. But things didn't end up kind of going the way that I thought. Instead of being in the Albany region in upstate New York, closer to family, I ended up doing my training with my husband down outside of Philadelphia and then coming back to Maine. And so there were parts of my story that were consistent with where I wanted to go, but there were decisions that I made along the way based on new information that came in or situations that happened that took me off where I thought I was going to end up. And if I look at my present place today, I had envisioned that I would be working in healthcare as an executive and family physician well into my 60s, probably closer to 70 before I retired, because my husband always calls me that Energizer bunny, and I really like to stay busy. So I never thought that I would have an earlier retirement. I always thought that I would keep on working and kind of stay the course in healthcare until I was closer to 70. Well, that didn't quite work out at 60 when my job was eliminated at my last organization, and I had that personal injury with a lot of recovery required and multiple surgeries the previous years. It was clear to me that that kind of a job wasn't going to be the best thing for me anymore. So now I have my own business. I wrote a book, and I'm in a totally different place than I expected to be because of different opportunities that arose and different situations that came forward that ended up having me change my path. And so I think it's really important for you to spend a little bit of time looking at your path and seeing where did it go a little bit differently than you had anticipated it would. And is that okay? Or are you in a place that you're starting to feel stuck, stagnant? It's not enough for you. You want more purpose, and you have this vision of where you want to go based on your last work that we did last month regarding your purpose and your passions and your superpowers and all the things that makes you unique and yourself, and where you want to go as far as how you want to feel, where you want to live, the kind of job you might want to have, or the relationships that you might want to have. So we worked on that vision statement, right, last time. And yeah, it's hard to write that vision statement down. And so you can think of it, is, if you want, is more like intentions, which is one of the things that a friend of mine, Katrina, shared with me the other day, that women like that phrasing a little bit better. It just resonates better. Or just to think about, I guess, just aspirations or dreams that you have for yourself and putting them out there, and then looking at your current state. So now I'm in my early 60s. So for my timeline, it's a lot of lines. So if you're a little bit older and you want to start back in your teens, you may want to do a line for each decade or a line for each 5 years. If you're younger, you might just have one line across the page, because if you're only 24 and you're pretty much in the same place that you had expected to be right now, and your vision has already been sort of solidified for you based on what you wanted to study in college, etc., it might be a little easier for you shorter. For me, when I did it, I would just like put out one for every decade and go through. And the milestones are really important ones. And you don't want to just include the ones that are like the happy ones, like getting married or having a baby or getting, accepted into the college that you want, or the trade school that you want, or getting the job that you wanted. Sometimes the milestones that you record are very important for the things that were challenges for you, places where you struggled and had to make some really hard decisions, or things were just hard for you and you had to continue forward and adjust what you were doing in order to meet those challenges. And sometimes they can be tough ones, like with me, with my injury and the surgeries that I had, or with my husband being diagnosed with cancer, 5 years or so ago. These things aren't always fun, right? But they're things that happen to us. And those are important things because they help to shape us into who we are. And they give us the ability to grow and develop and become more ourselves. And so they're all important to capture as well. So make sure as you're going through that whole process of capturing those milestones, that you're listing them all out. And then when you step back and you look at all of that information that you have in front of you, you'll start to have some aha moments, right? You may notice that where you thought you were going to go is a completely different path than where you ended up. You had thought you were going to go to college and become an engineer, or an architect, and instead you are now working as a medical assistant for the local internal medicine practice, or you're working a couple of jobs between Subway and Walmart's or something. Things didn't go quite the way that you expected. You didn't have the money for college, or whatever it happened to be. The pandemic hit and things just kind of fell apart. So you may be in a very different place. But the important thing here is it's not good or bad. There were no bad decisions that you made. They were just decisions that you made with the information that you had at the time, right? So you were doing the best that you could, the absolute best that you could at the time, with the information that you had and with everything that was happening around you. And so you made decisions and things kind of panned out in a certain way, and you are in your current place. Now that you've gotten to where you are and you understand a little bit about the path or the journey you took to get to where you are, it's time for you to critically observe everything in your life right now. How are you feeling? What kind of emotions do you have? How do you spend your time? What do you do for fun? What kind of work do you have? What's your home life like? What are your relationships like? Are you with a lot of different people? Are you pretty much isolated? I think it's important for you to think about that as well. just thinking about, who's in my life? How do I spend my time? Is it making me happy? Do I have joy? Am I frustrated all the time? Am I feeling less than I or feeling happy, 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 and I just love where I am. All of those things are just really important to ask yourself right now as you go through and ask yourself those questions. You'll it can be a little hard because you're like, oh, well, I'm in this job, and well, I'll give you my example. I open this business, right? And I've been in this business now for 18 months. I know that there's no return on investment for the first couple of years when you start to open your own business. And so I'm aware of that. And I know that I have to put in the money and I have to put in the time. And what I thought I'd be doing at this point is having more retreats and more events and ability to work with more clients. And that just hasn't panned out yet. So I'm at a place where I have to think a little bit differently about my business and say, am I doing the right thing? What do I need to do? What do I need to learn in order to bring my business to the next level so that I can help people the way that I really had envisioned to? And how do I spend my time? Because I sprained my thumb and wrist, I haven't been able to do as much yoga, which I really like, but I've been able to get out and do walking, and I've got a vacation coming up with my husband, and we got to spend a lot of family time this summer. So that's all good. So if I look at where I am currently, I got the book published. Yay. That was exciting. Haven't sold a ton of books, but that's okay. Because when I do sell books, I really enjoy working with people and being able to talk to people and do the book signings and all. So that's okay. Got the business. I don't have clients right now, but I'm working on the clients, right? And I have an idea about that, and I know I need to step back and work on my fundamentals for my business and really be able to focus a little bit so my messages are more clear and I can connect better with the people that I need to connect with. So that's where I am right now, sort of observing my life. I definitely have areas where I could improve because I gained like 5 or 7 pounds this year, but I know that I can get back into the swing of things and be able to get to the place where I get to do my daily practice every day. I get to walk, I get to move, I get to be in nature, I get to have that family time, and I have an idea about where I want to go with the business. So now what about you? I see an review on there. So if you are looking at your current life, there are probably things that you're saying, yeah, this is really good right now. And I really like this. And, if I think objectively about it, I'm happy with it. And then there's probably some other areas in your life that you're saying, yeah, I could definitely do a little bit. I could do things differently. I'm not quite where I wanted to be. Maybe it's time for me to go back to school. Maybe it's time for me to make that move and go cross country because I've always wanted to live in, I don't know, Michigan, Idaho, wherever. So all of those things might just start come up for you. So again, observing and being objective. Now, when you're thinking about being objective and thinking about that work like a scientist, it's very important that you try to remove any bias that you might have. Remember, we all look at the world through a filter, the lens that basically we create over all of our experiences over time, and based on the way that we experience the world in our own special way, our own unique way, we will come to the world with our biases or assumptions or thoughts that this is the way things should be, right? So when you're working as a scientist, you really have to be very, very aware of when that cognitive bias starts to creep in. And so I would ask you to try to not judge, to try to remove that bias and remove those filters and instead be that scientist that's really curious, is like, wow, this is fascinating. I can't believe what I'm finding. So come to your timeline with that sort of thought, like, wow, this is so cool. I can't believe that I'm in the middle of this right now. So anyway, for any of you that are on here right now, just you're love to hear what your thoughts are in the chat with regards to doing that objective review of your life. I know, just staying curious. Oh, It looks like my connection is unstable, so if you lose me, that's why. I apologize for that in advance. And any messages that people would like to share at this point? You don't need to. Oh, looks like we got people back. Good. So you've gone through your timeline. You looked at all your milestones, the things that happened may have been positive, sad, happy, challenges, etc. Looked at your current spot in your life, and that's awesome. Now you know where you are. The next step, and I'm going to have my share my screen again here. The next step that you want to do is then to think about how did you how did you get here? This is my fault for doing this right beforehand. What I really like is a whiteboard, so I'll try to get that for next time. But how did you get here? So we understand how you got here, right? So you're in this current place and you want to go to that new place, that new best place for you, that place that just gets you excited because you have a vision with dreams and aspirations of all these different possibilities that are in front of you. And you want to be able to get there. So here we are. We're standing. I like this because it's a nice fall scene. This is what it looks like up here in Maine just about now. So here you are. You're standing at the edge of the lake. You're looking across the lake. And you're like, that's where I want to go. That's the place that I want to be. I can't wait to get to that other spot. I am so excited. Not that I'm not happy with where I am right now, but I also have this vision of where I want to go in the future, and I can see it. So just like in this picture where this individual is looking across and they can see this other place, right? This other side. And there's a gap between where this individual is and where they would like to go, and they have to figure out, how do I get there? Now, looking at this picture, you could say, well, you get in a boat and you cross over. That would be one option. You could continue to build the dock out so that you get basically a bridge, or maybe you do stepping stones like we had in the last picture. Maybe he could swim across, right? There are multiple different options. Maybe he just walks around the entire lake until he gets to the other side. But this individual has some options about how to move from where they are to where they want to go, which is across this beautiful, beautiful body of water. So I'm going to stop sharing here for a second, come back online. All right, sorry about that. So what I like about the picture is the picture demonstrates to me, a very visual way of looking at where you are in your current space, and you can see that vision, right? You can see that place that you want to go. It's just that there's a gap. There's a space that you have to cross, and you have options, just as I mentioned, right? So there's definitely a lot of options that you have. How do you figure out what to do? Well, in business, what we would do is called a gap analysis on an annual basis. Basically, every 3 to 5 years, you do a big strategic plan. And when you think about your plan, you're thinking about your mission, your reason for being, what you're trying to do, what's your purpose. And healthcare is really easy, right? We're trying to take care of people in the community, keep them healthy and well. So that's a great mission. It's a great purpose. And we would look out and we'd say, well, this is what we're doing now. And in 3 years, we want to have 40% of the market share. We want to have new service lines that are bringing in additional revenue. And we want to create new programs for patients or bring in new technology to help with surgeries, et cetera. So you have these goals or aspirations that you put out there every couple of years. And then we will do a gap analysis to say, here's our current state, here's our future state. Just like you did, right? You look backwards to say, how did we get here? Where's our performance and where's our current state? And then you look at where you want to go. And you think about, how do I move from where I am now to where I want to go, and set up series of goals or steps or ways to get to that new place, and then be able to hold yourself accountable and be able to monitor that performance over time. In much the same way, you can do that with your own life. And it's really easy to do. It's called a gap analysis. And basically, it's looking at where you are now based on all of that objective information that you cataloged for yourself just a little while ago. And then you think about where you want to be in the future, and you go through topic area by topic area. And that really gives you a good sense of, where the gaps are. And then once you have a gap that you can identify, then you can figure out, what do I need to do to close that gap? So I'm going to show you my screen one more time, because we're going to go through and actually give you an example of how to do this. And like I said, I wish I had my whiteboard. Whoops. Oh, I'm not going to knock that over. Wish I had my whiteboard, because I love to write this stuff out. But I did put it into a PowerPoint for you. So I'm going to share my screen again, just so that I can give to you, hopefully not drive you crazy with this again. We'll go and look at where we want to go by doing our gap analysis. Okay, so gap analysis. Think about your current state, where you want to go, and think about different topic areas or areas of your life, and start to catalog that information for yourself in, again, non-judgmental way. Remember, you made good decisions all along the way based on information that you had, and that's how you got to your current place. There's no good or bad. It just is. It's just data. It's just information. So we're going to take that information, and then we're going to think about where you want to go in the future. So here are just some examples that I put on the left here. So job or work, it could be relationships, your self-care. What's your home like, your feelings and emotions? How do you spend your free time? How do you spend your energy? What's your energy level like? What about your finances? There could be 20 of these, and they're going to be somewhat unique to you. So the first thing that you want to do is to think about all of those categories or areas in your life that you want to critically look at in a very objective, scientific way. So, for example, maybe you're a medical assistant, but you really want to be a nurse. You always wanted to be a nurse, but you didn't have the money to go to school. You did get your degree to become a medical assistant. You've been doing that for a while. It's working out pretty good for you, but you want more. You'd love to be able to get a nursing degree and move forward in healthcare. So what's that gap? Well, it's education, right? You need a degree. You did work as a medical assistant, which is awesome. But now you need to go forward and do more education in order to get a nursing certificate and degree. So how do you go about that? Well, at my last organization, we actually had a training program for people who wanted to continue to pursue jobs in healthcare. So we would help them actually train to become nurses. And you do that, and you can do that part-time while you're still doing some work. So that might be an option for this individual. Right. And they would have to think, well, how do I do it? Do I work part-time at the same time? Can I afford just to take a couple of years off to be able to focus on my job as, becoming a nurse? And that would be my new role for the next 2 years until I get there. Or do I have to do some combination of these things? The second area is, say, relationships. And this individual says, my relationships are okay. I've got friends I do things with, and, I have a partner that I enjoy being with, and things are okay. But where do you want to go? Well, I want to have awesome relationships. Okay, well, what does that mean? What does awesome relationship mean in the future? Do you really want to be, happy, more connected? What does that look like for you? And when you look at that gap, you think to yourself, well, we've gotten kind of complacent, my partner and I, we've been together for 5 years. So we just kind of think sometimes take each other for granted, maybe a little bit. Sometimes it's time. We're both busy working. Maybe it's just putting in the effort. So what's one way that you could close that? Well, maybe have a date night 2 times a month at least, so that you're always having some time that's focused just on the two of you, and you can get out and spend some time together. Maybe it's making sure that Saturdays are time for friends and family to do things that are fun. Or maybe it's a gratitude on a daily basis and expressing that to somebody in your life, somebody that you have a relationship with, and you just want to tell them how much you appreciate them, and do that on a daily basis and kind of rotate it through the folks that you have. Whatever it happens to be, there's lots of different options, right? Because remember, if we look back at this picture, there's a lot of different ways to get from one side of this place to the future place. And so there's always options available to you. And it's just listing out the options and thinking about what those possibilities are, and then identifying the ones that make the most sense for you. So you can continue to go through this. So feelings and emotions. Maybe I'm fine. Everything's fine. But maybe I don't want to just be fine. Maybe I want to feel jazzed, happy, joyful on a daily basis. And that's really, really what I want. Maybe finances are okay, but they're not to the level that I want. Or maybe my energy level is a little bit less than I'd like it to be, and I want it to be higher. And so I know that I need to spend a little bit more time on the self-care, which is minimal because I don't have time. So let's look at self-care. Okay, it's minimal, but I really want to get into it daily. I think that's like something I could do, but I'm not sure how to integrate it into my daily life. So what are some things that I can do? Well, you could put alarms in your phone so that it signals you to do some deep breathing exercises for 5 minutes twice a day. Or maybe you're just scheduling some me time into your calendar a couple of times a week. Whatever it happens to be, there are different options that you have that you can use to really just close those gaps over time. So when you go through this exercise, I think there's a couple things that are really key to keep in mind. One is there's no rights or wrongs to how you're feeling now and where you want to go. It's just thoughts that you have about what might be possible for you in your future, and looking at the data that you have now and trying to figure out how to move from one place to another. And there's so many different options and possibilities for you. So you just have to really keep yourself with an open mindset, stay really curious, and look towards, that whole world of potential that's out there for you that you may not even have thought about yet. But as you go through looking at all of those options to close those gaps, you can start to take that information and apply it in a way that helps you take steps to take action to get to that future place that you want to go to. It'll start to become much clearer to you what you need to do to get to that new place where you are your best authentic self, and you are happy, and you are joyful, and you have the things in the life that you want. Now, it's not all going to just pop into your life like, unicorns and roses and things like that the first day that you do this work. It's work because it is work, and it's important for you to move through this so that you can have your own aha moments as you go through your timeline and you look at the choices that you made, and you look at the different milestones and life events that happen for you. It'll get you thinking, and there'll be things that you didn't even recognize or think about for a really long time that will start to come up for you, and things will start to make sense. And then you'll look at your current place in life and you'll say, either this is really where I want to be, or no, this is not quite, and here's where I want to go. And you'll start to have some aha moments about that too, right? As in, like, I always wanted to live in Michigan, but here I am in Rhode Island. Or I always wanted to travel the world, but I've never gone out of my state. Or whatever it happens to be for you. You've always wanted to be a chef, but you never had the time or the resources to really go and pursue that dream, even though you're watching Gordon Ramsay every single time that he's on TV, like my husband does. And so anyhow, it'll give you a lot of information. There may be some aha moments that you go through, and there may be some emotions that come up that are a little bit difficult, and that's okay. Just make sure that you're feeling them and processing them, that you're thinking about those feelings and emotions and about where they are in your body. And that's going to help you with a lot of information for some of the other steps that we'll do down the road in the next couple of months. But today was really about being that scientist and stepping back and trying to be non-judgmental, no judges, and really just cataloging where you are and documenting where you are and where you want to go, and thinking, most importantly, about all of those different possibilities that you have for your future. I hope you've enjoyed walking through the gap analysis today and that it was helpful for you. And I would urge you to continue to think about all those possibilities and options that you have to close your gaps that you have identified for yourself. And in our next session next month for the drop-in, we're going to focus a little bit more on the why. How did you get there? And the W is for wonder and figure out how you got here using a series of why questions. So that'll be a lot of fun to go into next time. And that will start to help you understand and become more self-aware of your decision-making patterns and help you as you just reflect on your current place in life and where you want to go. It'll really help in that next in the next set of work that we'll do in the next chapter. So I look forward to seeing you at our next month's drop-in session. Thank you to all of you today who joined us. I hope you found this helpful. And for more, just go to our website at delaninstitute.com, and we'll see you shortly. See you next month. Bye.